The World Cup was supposed to be football's greatest celebration, but on the 25th of June, something broke. Something cracked open in front of the entire planet, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Another star player has fallen. Another body lies twisted on the grass. Another tournament promise has been shattered in front of millions of watching eyes. And the worst part, the part nobody at FIFA wants you to think about, is that this was not an accident. This was inevitable. Picture the scene. Mexico versus Czechia. A stadium roaring, cameras flashing, the world tuning in, expecting magic. And then, in a single brutal moment, one challenge changes everything. A leg buckles. A scream cuts through the noise. A player crashes to the turf, clutching, writhing, gasping for air as the medical staff sprint onto the pitch. The crowd falls silent. Teammates turn their heads away. And somewhere in a control room, executives in expensive suits feel their stomachs drop, because they know exactly what this looks like to the world. They know exactly what is coming next. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the 25th of June will be remembered as the day FIFA's carefully built illusion finally collapsed. You will see the pattern. You will see the cover-up. You will see the truth they hoped you would scroll past. So before we go any further, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because what is coming in the next few minutes is the kind of story they would rather you never hear. Here is the central contradiction nobody at the top wants to admit. FIFA promised the greatest World Cup in history, the safest, the most professional, the most spectacular. What the world actually got on that single day was a player stretchered off in agony, a referee decision that left an entire fan base furious, pitch conditions that looked like a Sunday league field, and stadium sections so empty you could count the seats. The promise versus the reality, the fantasy versus the footage, and the footage does not lie. Let us start with the victim, because that is what he is now, the latest victim of this tournament. The challenge was reckless, studs up, late, vicious. The kind of tackle that ends seasons, ends contracts, ends dreams. He went down instantly, and anyone who has watched football long enough recognized that fall. The unnatural twist, the hands clutching at the knee, the look on his face that said, "I already know." Teammates waved frantically toward the bench, the physios sprinted, and the man who threw the challenge, the man whose boot tore through that leg, barely got a stern look from the referee. No red card, no serious punishment, just a yellow flicker of cardboard and a shrug. Sit with that for a moment. A career possibly destroyed, and the punishment was a piece of yellow plastic. Mexican fans erupted. Czech fans went quiet. Neutral viewers around the world flooded social media with the same question. How? How is this allowed? How is this protected? How is this the standard at a World Cup? And as Mexico cruised toward victory, the celebration felt hollow because every replay, every slow-motion angle, every freeze frame told the same story. A man was sacrificed, and the officials looked the other way. But that is just the beginning. Pull back further and the picture grows darker. Because this was not one isolated incident on one isolated day. This was the 25th of June, and across multiple matches, the cracks were splitting open everywhere you looked. The pitches, first of all. The pitches were a disgrace. Players slipping on patches of dry, dying grass, divots tearing up with every sprint. Surfaces so uneven that passes bounced at strange angles, ruining the very thing this tournament was supposed to celebrate, the beautiful game itself. World-class athletes, the best of the best, forced to perform on fields that looked like they had been resurfaced overnight by people who had never seen a football match. And then the referees. Oh, the referees. Decision after decision, blunder after blunder. Penalties given that should not have been, penalties denied that screamed for VAR. Cards waved at the wrong players, offsides missed by yards. The officiating across that single day was so chaotic that commentators stopped pretending. Pundits stopped sugarcoating. Even the broadcasters, the ones paid handsomely to keep the spectacle alive, could not hide the disbelief in their voices. Think about that for a moment. The people whose entire job is to sell you the dream were openly admitting the nightmare. And then there were the seats, the empty seats. Whole sections of stadiums, gaping holes of blue and red plastic where bodies were supposed to be. This was supposed to be the hottest ticket on earth. This was supposed to be a global festival. Instead, cameras kept cutting wide and quickly cutting back because the truth was visible to anyone with eyes. Tickets were too expensive, travel was too complicated, hosts were underprepared, and the atmosphere in some venues felt less like a World Cup and more like a half-forgotten friendly. The biggest tournament on earth, and the seats were screaming silence. Before we go any deeper, and trust me, it gets worse. If this is the kind of coverage you have been searching for, the kind nobody else is brave enough to put on camera, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because what comes next is unlike anything you will see on the official channels. Now zoom out and ask yourself the question the suits do not want you asking. What does all of this really mean? One injured star is a tragedy. One bad refereeing call is a mistake. One empty stadium is unlucky. But all of it, on the same day, in the same tournament, under the same organization, that is not bad luck. That is a pattern. That is a system failing in real time, and the world is watching. FIFA sold you a vision. They sold you spectacle. They sold you safety, fairness, excellence, unity. They sold you a tournament that was supposed to lift the sport to new heights. And what arrived instead, on the 25th of June, was a circus of broken bodies, broken decisions, broken pitches, and broken promises. The contradiction could not be louder. The promise versus the reality. Say it again. The promise versus the reality. And one more time, because it deserves to be repeated. The promise versus the reality. Think about the player still icing his leg tonight. Think about the family watching from home, phones ringing, hearts pounding, wondering if his career is over. Think about the fans who saved for years to be in that stadium, only to watch their hero carried off and the guilty man walk free. Think about the millions of kids around the world who tuned in, dreaming of one day playing on that stage, and who instead saw a stage that was not ready for them. This is the embarrassment they were warned about. This is the disaster insiders whispered about for months. This is the moment the curtain slipped, just for a day, just long enough for the world to see what is really happening behind the badge, behind the anthem, behind the trophy. So what do you think? Is this the greatest World Cup in history, or the biggest embarrassment football has ever produced? Was the 25th of June a bad day, or was it the day the truth finally broke through? Drop your verdict in the comments. Tell me what you saw. Tell me who you blame. Tell me whether you believe this tournament can still be saved, or whether the damage is already done. Like this video if you want more uncomfortable truths nobody else will tell you. Subscribe so the next chapter lands in your feed the moment it drops. And share this with the fan in your life who still believes the official story. Because the World Cup just took its latest victim. And something tells me deep down, you already know he will not be the last.